Good morning. I am Kevin Price. My voice about 60 to 70%, which is way better than what I've had now for several days. Glad to be with you, talking to you about you and your business. Do want to remind you, big date, January 3, 2016, will be the launch of the Price of Business TV show on the Biz TV network, over 30 markets around the country, including New York City, Los Angeles, and many others. We're excited about that. Keep an eye on that at priceofbusiness.com. I'm also very excited because we're going to talk about a topic that's very, very near and dear to me, which is gun freedom, Second Amendment rights. And Chris Corso, who's a regular contributor on the Price of Business and really kind of our liberty contributor. He's someone who talks about personal liberties and civil liberties, and kind of my go-to guy for that. He's with the Corso Law Group. That's corsolawgroup.com, offices in Arizona, as well as here in Houston. Chris, a little bit about your firm, and then go ahead right into your topic today, which is a very timely one.
Thanks, Kevin, and you do sound a lot better today, I must say,
thanks.
than last week. Yeah, our firm is a criminal law practice. As you say, it started in Arizona, and then we came out here to open a second office in Houston, and we handle a lot of DWI, all types of traffic criminal matters, and have a little different perspective, a little different idea of what we do. We try to help a lot of the people, the family, rather than just the case. So the client to us is more education and extends out to a lot of the family members and themselves to try to prevent some things in the future. But speaking of which, we have the topic today, which is the open carry, campus carry law that's going to go into effect in a few weeks, actually, regarding concealed weapons and carry and open gun laws. And, right now, so for those of you who don't know, at this point, the law today is you need a permit to carry a concealed weapon. And in a few weeks, we'll get the technical part of this out of the way. But in a few weeks, what's going to end up happening is everything's going to convert to a license to carry, an LTC, they're going to call it. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to carry a concealed weapon, handgun, and carry it open on you. And that's created quite a little bit of controversy so far, especially with private companies. I don't know, where you sit on this, but at this point, a lot of people are split on it. Companies are pretty opinionated on it, on what they want to do, and as far as Whataburger and big places, like this, Chipotle, and customers have different views of coming into a store.
Chipotle doesn't want anyone killing their customers except for them.
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. Exactly. If any of you, I being from the East Coast, I think I tend to agree with some of that, but with the food anyway. So yeah, the people coming in, they're concerned. They're concerned that somebody's going to walk in and walk right out when they see a gun, because it's not prevalent. They don't see it a lot, and guns make people nervous. And we were talking a little bit before we came on about the good and bad points to it, and even the police, lines are drawn automatically. We talked about last week about everybody calming down with the police versus people and the clients that we come across. And at this point, the Houston PD, the police chief, basically said, how are you going to tell the good guys from the bad guys? Well, right there, you see that there's an immediate problem right now. What's the suggestion? Anyone, carrying a gun, maybe a bad guy, we don't know. And so that's, it's becoming an issue.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's ironic. This last week, my most recent article in Huffington Post was about gun control and the fact that the tide, and from a societal perspective, is literally clearly against gun control. You got the president of the largest Christian university in the United States declaring, "Hey, if you're licensed to carry, we want you to carry on campus." You've got the chief of police in Detroit saying crime has gone down over 30% because our citizens are among the most well-armed of any urban area in the country. 1 in 20 have a permit to carry a gun down in Detroit. That number blows my mind. Crime has dropped over 30%, violent crime as a result of that. Burglaries, rather, has dropped over 30%. You got the police, or rather the sheriff from upstate New York, who happens to be a Democrat, who's saying, hey, it's your patriotic duty to carry a gun if you're licensed to carry a gun. And you've got over 85% of all law enforcement, according to policeone.com, saying, I think it's a sensible thing to do is for people to carry so they can help saddle the burden of protecting their neighbors.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I've talked to officers, too, all the way from back east to here. It's funny how the further west you get, it's sort of like the Wild West. The further west you get, the less it's not as big of a deal to have a gun. Back east, it's you have a gun. Oh my God, where is it? Who's carrying it? And at this point, it's not so much about carrying or having it; it's about displaying it versus not. And there's the argument that can be made, and I think some of that percentage, which it's startling. Mm-hmm. Crime rate goes down even with concealed, but when it's open, people tend to look at that and say, well, okay, if I'm planning on doing something here or burglary or whatever, I'm looking at 4 people that have a gun on them. Well, maybe I should go to the next place. I'm not going to do this. And so I think that's a huge reason why you're seeing that the rate go down. Hey, look, if you're going to have it, I don't personally, do you display it? You don't. The permit is there to do it, and I agree. You can't disagree with those numbers, Kevin.
Right.
And this is the thing. And then when you get to campus, and you get to colleges and so on, and that's where people, I think, really start to debate this issue. Is because we've had so many incidents, with guns on campus and things like that. But I think that's a reason for it, because if these kids know, hey, I don't know if 4 people in this classroom, 10 people in this classroom are going to have a gun on them, well, now I can see them. Right. That's a deterrent, in my opinion. So, I agree with that.
And I have mixed feelings about it. I personally, if I carried, I would not carry open. I would carry concealed. I would be discreet about that. I don't need to bring attention to me or my gun. But it's something about circumventing that right, and it's something about creating a culture of instability for anyone who would do harm that I like about the idea of open carry. Well, if I see the one, how many are there who I don't see?
Well, that's the thing. The other problem, we talk about a lot of rights, things being taken away and things like that. Well, okay, this is one of those topics where you say, well, okay, I agree with civil rights and things like that. Let's uphold that. Well, but when it comes to guns, I don't know about that. Well, you can't. What are you going to pick and choose?
Exactly.
You can't pick and choose the rights. We say, well, we agree with. I mean, you can, of course, anybody can, but we agree with some things. But we say, well, these pluck these civil rights away to be ability to carry. It's not so much about concealed. When you start to talk about that with the civil rights issues, it's not so much about concealing it versus carrying it open. You have a right to it.
That's right.
And so inside, outside, it doesn't make a difference. But most people, I think, the people I know and I've talked to, they always have been fighting to conceal it more than anything. And that's probably because that's the only way you could do it. But the campus, the thing on campus is you have professors that, University of Texas who resigned because they feel like they may be in danger or something like that. But then a lot of people say, well, hey, look, they're bringing them on anyway. They're concealing them anyway. We might as well just allow them to carry open. Well, let's come up with regulations. There's no, parents that can have a license can bring it on campus, can't bring it to a dorm that say, with kids under 21. I don't know how you're going to enforce any of that.
Yeah.
I really don't. I mean, have you seen campus police and their enforcement?
Yeah, right, right. So, mall cop.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's controversial, but it's one of those things where the licenses are being given out, and I do think it's a deterrent. I really do.
Second Amendment, you want to take my Second Amendment, I might as well take away. By the way, the same people who want to take away our Second Amendment would let to go after our Fifth Amendment, wouldn't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's probably
our
a
Second
story
Amendment
for another.
defends the Fifth Amendment and the First Amendment.
That's right.
And the 900 amendments
Yep.
that seem to become increasingly inconvenient to government.
Exactly. Well, hey, if we can knock. They're trying to knock them out one at a time, like you said. Like they say in there, the police chief, Houston PD. How do you tell the good from the good guys from the bad guys? That, to me, when I looked at that situation, that statement, that scares me more than seeing somebody with a gun on their hip. I got to tell you, because that immediately creates a division right there. I mean, you have officers saying it's us against you.
And I think that the police chief, and particularly this police chief, is more of a bureaucrat than a street guy.
Yeah.
I know street cops, and they like people with guns.
Yeah.
They generally like, unless they're being pointed at them, they like the fact that we live in a place that they can get help from their fellow citizen, and not one in which the only ones carrying guns are people who are either after bad guys or are the bad guys. No one wants that kind of call. No one in law enforcement except for bureaucrats. The police chief of New York had a similar sentiment. But you take the guy like the police chief of Detroit who actually cut his teeth on the streets. And the guy, the sheriff of upstate New York, who on a daily basis is facing criminals. These guys are saying, hey, we want more people supporting us carrying guns rather than not.
Well, it's becoming increasingly more difficult for them as, you have issues with finance and revenue and so on with the municipalities and things like that. They're trying to put good people on the street to protect us, and they're having trouble doing that. So you got a larger mass of people with fewer police officers. I have a lot of friends back east, lieutenants, sergeants, and so on, all the way down to just, to patrolmen that have the same view. And back there, it's guns are a big deal. I mean, carrying a gun, it's a big project, and it's looked at that way. But yeah, the officers, I agree with that. The officers are, they're trying to get everybody on the same playing field and some help. You're right, and most of them don't have a problem with it. But you're right. I think the political part of the department, as you go up and up the chain, tends to want to speak to the different people or their constituents, and
which is the people that appointed them.
Exactly.
Not,
well,
and the coalitions that mobilize these various
the
things.
money people.
So, exactly. And the way I look at it is, I don't want us to be treated like pets, but like people, and people should be able to defend themselves.
Right.
And not expect some third party called government to take care of us. To me, it's really like the epitome of entitlement to think that we're not supposed to take care of ourselves.
Well, it's just like anything else. And the thought, and we were talking about this before we came on, is, it scares people. They see somebody with it, but that's because we're not used to it. I think that as time passes and you start to see this more and more, it becomes not old habit, but it becomes something you're used to seeing. Anytime you implement something brand new that is as controversial as this topic, you're going to get people that are nervous, especially with the handguns. I mean, handguns can kill people.
Yeah.
But we always have that phrase, that saying, people kill people, not guns. But I just think the more you get used to it, it's sort of like the medical marijuana and things like that, and the stigma of it is, oh yeah, no, I can't be anywhere where there's a gun. But they don't. Maybe down the line in the future they'll think, hey, I want to be somewhere where people have that.
Nothing makes me more nervous these days than going in a movie theater.
Well, so yeah, I mean,
these gun-free zones. It's just I don't hardly. I wasn't going much anyway. It had to be a big screen thing because I got a great TV at home. Redbox gets things out pretty quickly. But now it's like I'm sitting there looking around the room. Who might be weird, who might be a problem. That isn't entertaining, and the fact that I pay for that irritates me.
Yeah,
and so I don't like gun-free zones.
That's nerve-wracking with the movie theater, because if you subscribe to the idea that what you're watching and what you're seeing is influencing what you're thinking and what you may do. I mean, parents think that a lot about kids that are watching certain things on TV. That's why every device you have has parental controls and so on. So when you go into a movie theater and it's nice and dark and all that, and you think about all the stories and the people walking in and just starting shooting people, you're right. You start to think about that and say, well, what kind of topic are we watching? What are we watching on the screen today? What's the trigger point for somebody to get up and do something? And if you're protected, then you're not going to feel that, I think.
Chris Corso, he's with CorsoLawGroup.com. He's got offices in the Phoenix area as well as here in the Houston area. We're delighted always. He's on every single week. He's a regular contributor on the program. And we're looking forward to getting this content with this interview over at USDailyReview.com. When I say this content, he's brought some great talking points that we'll be including as well. And Chris, thanks so much. Good to see you, man.
Thank you. You too. And you know what? Email the show. Give out the email address because I want to know what people think about this.
Absolutely.
This is real important.
Yeah, absolutely. Email us over there at info@usabusinessradio.com, info@usabusinessradio.com, and this is The Price of Business.